Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome to the Charity Drive. This time around, we are benefiting the World Food Program, and my name is Finnick, joined by Southpaw Racer. We are at Dubai Autodrome for a 90-minute race of GT4 action. Lots of different cars on the track. We'll get into that in a little bit, but first, Southpaw, how are you feeling this? Fine. I think it's still nighttime there in your part of the world.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's 10:15 p.m. over here in Western Australia. Thank you very much for the intro there, Nick, and welcome everyone to the stream. I'm really looking forward to this one, just because, you know, I was here for the last running of the charity drive at Spa-Francorchamps, and it was a hell of a time. I'm really happy to see that it's continuing and still going strong this time. Of course, we are racing at Dubai in GT4 cars. We've got a 90-minute race coming up, and well, we'll see how things go. This is a very good field of cars, plenty of entries, and the racing should be good.
Yeah, I mean, taking a look at qualifying, things are relatively close up at the top. Only 4.7 hundredths between the top qualifier, Samuel McGill, in the Red Bull Racing Chevy, and Captain Foxy currently sitting, as we said, 4.7 hundredths behind in that Foxy Racing Maserati. I'm very interested with some of the changes that have been to some of these mods. I know we had like some Mustangs and some other stuff like that originally weren't quite up to stuff with the rest of the GT4 cars that are participating. So I kind of want to see how these more heavily modified versions of the cars are going to do tonight.
Yeah, I am too. Very varied field that we've got here, of course. Yeah, we've got Mustangs, we've got Porsche Caymans, we've got McLarens. Pretty much every GT4 car you can think of, bar a few, is presented here. And noticing that there is quite a nice variety at the top. We're on board with Samuel McGill right now on a qualifying lap, which is 15 minutes to go on the session. And I guess this gives us a really good opportunity to go around this track, see how it drives in these cars. I actually really love Dubai. It's a beautiful flowing circuit. It's got a bank turn, as McGill is just demonstrating right there, and plenty of hairpins with heavy braking zones. Should be some good overtaking opportunities.
Yeah, especially this back straight leading into turn 10. If this were a Formula 1 circuit, this would be your DRS zone, probably DRS zone 1 of 2, the other being on the start-finish straight, but obviously this being GT4. No need for that, as dirty air, less of a thing with these streamlined cars compared to those high vortex generating F1 cars that we watch on Sundays go around other tracks.
Yeah, indeed. These GT4 cars rely a lot more on mechanical grip than most of the cars you'd see racing around tracks like this. And fun fact, Dubai, I think, actually is a Grade 1 certified circuit, which means that Formula 1 could race on it if they so desired, but there is no Dubai Grand Prix yet anyway. So we have to stick to the GT and sports car stuff for now, as we see McGill going through the final corner, which has a very difficult exit. Widens a bit on exit and then narrows up, as you see. So you've got to be careful with how you put the power down out of there. And 2050 is his fastest lap there. It doesn't look like he's managed to improve that time, but you see the gap up the front. Captain Foxy is only about 0.05 of a second behind. That's pretty incredible. It's Chevrolet versus Maserati at the front.
Please, something my predominantly non-GT watching self really thinks about all that much is American manufacturers actually taking it to the Europeans all that often. But obviously this time around it's doing very well for Samuel McGill. Although something I've been noticing is that there's been a lot of oversteer on some of these exits. I think like what was that, turn 7. I'm noticing cars go a little bit oversteery there. I'm kind of curious as to where the real pinch points on the track are, as far as like the hairier zones or the zones that take the most skill to actually overcome.
Yeah, I'm curious as well. I think on the first lap, through turns 1, 2, and 3, that's going to be difficult because it really requires you to alter your line out of turn 1 coming into turn 2 in order to get a good run through turn 3. We'll see how Captain Foxy ends up going here. This is turn 1. It's descending downhill, and then you got to switch right back for turn 2. Turn 3 is a double apex corner, and in my experience, I found it pretty easy to run wide on the exit of this one, but he's managing to keep it flat out in that Maserati. You got to switch back again for a little bit of an air spin, and then a tightening right-hander. This could be a good opportunity to pass here because, you know, obviously really tightening up, and good potential to send one up the inside.
Yeah, you see that snap of understeer, or not snap of understeer, but you see a little bit of understeer happening on the exit of that corner as he comes around. Misses the apex very slightly on turn 9 as he moves over onto the back straight. Turn 10 coming up. This is a hairpin where I've been noticing some cars have been struggling a little bit to get the power down on the exit. You know, it's a little bit more straightforward, and you go right into turn 11. Which is another left-hander. So we see Captain Foxy making his way in, missing the outside of the turn just a little bit, just to get a little bit nicer line going into that turn 11. Comes around, beautiful exit on that, and continues moving forward through the rest of the course into turn 12.
Yeah, tight hairpin this one. And then you've got another flat-out section coming into one of the slower corners on the racetrack, and this one is one that's very difficult to get right. You get on the brakes heavily here, and the corner goes uphill. There's a tiny bit of banking there as well, but you have to make it a late apex because you, again, switch right back into this right-hander, and you see that Captain Foxy runs just a little bit wide there. That might have killed his run coming into the final corners. He keeps it within track limits, keeping 2 wheels on the racetrack. And oh dear, no, that's beyond track limits. He will not finish that lap. Obviously, that's a big no-no to run outside the white lines. So, well, he's only got 10 minutes left to try and overcome Samuel McGill. Let's see if he can do it.
Yeah, he was ahead going into into sector 3. As we take a look at the sector times, he was purple through that sector about 4 tenths ahead, now 2 tenths ahead of what Samuel McGill is currently doing, as he was only 0.3 behind in sector 1. This Ford going around that same difficult, it's almost like a reverse of the corkscrew turn from Laguna Seca for anyone who watches IndyCar here, going uphill in a very, very aggressive uphill turn. As you see Samuel McGill making his way across the finish line. He made a very good sector 2 here and goes purple in sector 1, increases his lead now to almost 3 tenths off of a very nice lap from him.
Yeah, very nice lap indeed. First driver into the 2:04 bracket in this qualifying session. That Camaro is looking mighty quick. I don't know if there's much Captain Foxy will be able to do to overcome him. Crackerzak either. He hasn't been able to get within 2 tenths of what was the fastest time until McGill decided, okay, I'm going to go 3 tenths, 2 tenths faster than my competition. But it's good to see that we have a very top 3 here. We've got a Chevrolet Camaro leading the standings, then we've got a Maserati Gran Turismo, and then Crackerzak here in the Mercedes AMG. So I think that really speaks to how well the mod has been put together for this event, that pretty much any car you get into is going to be competitive.
As we take a look at Crackerzak going around this, I mean, you can see just how much the mechanical grip is at play here just by taking a look at the wheels of the car and where it's actually pushing the grip down. I can't really speak right now. I'm not a color commentator anyway. You talk about stuff.
No worries, mate. No worries. I think that, well, the Mercedes, I haven't driven it much on Assetto Corsa, but it certainly is a nice car to drive. It's got a big, torquey V8 engine, and the same can be said for the Camaro. But they make their power just a little bit differently in different areas of the circuit. I mean, we see that in the sector times. McGill definitely quicker in the final sector of the track, with couple of those twisties and going through the final corners. But Captain Foxy fastest in the middle sector, which is mainly straights, so that tells you something about where the strengths of the Maserati lie.
And that might be important going into the race as far as battles are concerned, right? Getting a slipstream into that turn 10, perhaps able to make something happen around there and make things help and try to hold off Samuel McGill if he's able to get a nice run down into turn 1 off the start. Of course, this is rolling start, so going to go 2x2 as we see Cracker Zach actually improve his time, now 9/10 off of Samuel McGill. Making a purple sector 3 in that Mercedes AMG. And that's what I've noticed about this car is it's relatively planted through a lot of these corners where we're seeing a little bit of understeer, a little bit of oversteer from Sam Miguel and Captain Foxy. Maybe they're driving a little bit closer to the limit, but it still is quite impressive. Only about a second off at the moment. Also want to take a look, maybe Guyando is about to go out into the track and probably set another time as well. And he is in, that looks like an Aston Martin, but I'm not actually sure. Let me double check this. No, he's in a Mercedes as well.
Well, Mercedes and Aston Martin share a lot of parts on the road, so I think you're forgiven for making that slight error. Meanwhile, we also have a Hyundai out on the track at the moment, driven by Seth here in perhaps the most British-looking car out there. Bit ironic considering he's driving a Korean-built machine. At 8th place at the moment, and he's run a personal best in the first sector there. Let's see how this lap goes for him as this lap continues on down into 4th gear. The gearing looks a little interesting here on this Hyundai. Let's see what he ends up doing on the way down into the hairpin. Obviously a 6-speed transmission, and he's reaching the very top of the rev range, but it seems like the way these gear ratios are set in the Hyundai means that sometimes 3rd and 4th gear is the way to go through some of those medium speed corners. Wow, he's really pushing it, isn't he?
Yeah, massive oversteer, but he's able to correct it. That's probably enough to not really be able to set a lap time here. But something that I noticed he did a little bit different to some of the other cars is that high banked turn earlier on. He took an outside line, which is something that we don't really consider a lot in these kind of circuit races, right? Is, you know, taking a straight outside line instead of going for an apex on banked turns. Which is much more common on, you know, oval races we see in NASCAR, IndyCar, that kind of thing, where you, instead of going for the apex every time, you pick a lane, right? So I'll be interested to see how cars navigate that banked turn differently from one another.
Yeah, I'd be interested too. I mean, we see the Cayman right here of Cobby taking a late apex there. He was using the banking to launch himself out of the corner. And yeah, you do see that quite a bit in various racing series. I remember watching DTM years ago at the Hockenheim Ring. And through the stadium section of that circuit, there's a banked hairpin, and cars were taking the extreme outside line, which I thought was a little strange, but they were carrying a lot of speed through that corner. Unfortunately for Cobby, that is wide through the first of our hairpins in the middle sector, and just getting off the track again there too. Oh, there's some news. It looks like Cracker Zach has set a personal best in the first sector as well. Let's see what he can do to get a little bit closer to Captain Foxy and Samuel McGill. Looks like a nice turn in there.
Making his way over towards turns 8 and 9. Of course, both left-handers in turn 9 really has been important. This bank turn, he goes early apex on that one, putting the power down a little bit earlier, going down into the straight. We'll see how he moves going into this apex. Sector 2 for him, 42.2. which is the same as Samuel McGill, a little bit slower than Captain Foxy, who's been really, really strong in that sector too. Here we go. Making his way through that hairpin. He's doing pretty well on the onboard, and as we see, not going for the outside edge of that curb, now moving into the inside a little bit towards the inside of the track, maybe lost the track limits there, but overall, very solid run from him thus far.
Yeah, absolutely. It looks like a lovely smooth lap here from Cracker Zach. Let's see if the final sector offers up any further opportunities. Flat out through the left-hander, as you would. It's only a gentle bend in the road. And yeah, I'm seeing once again, he's one of those people who is lining up the corner, taking the late apex using the banking, and he was able to keep it flat out and online through the penultimate corner. Towards the start-finish line he comes. Let's see what this lap is like.
Turn 16, hits the edge of the track beautifully, comes across the line, doesn't really improve his time all that much. He still is, looks like 0.4 seconds behind Samuel McGill right now. My timer board's actually incorrect, even though he went 32.2 in the end, which is only 0.1 seconds off of Samuel McGill. He is definitely improving his times as he adjusts to this, and I'm seeing him get closer and closer to limited grip on the car, which is something that Samuel McGill and Captain Foxy have been doing constantly throughout this qualifying session.
Yeah, absolutely. This he hasn't got much time though to set the lap here. I do believe that that's wide. I do believe that, you know, as long as you cross the line before the timer ends, you will be able to finish your lap. But having run as wide as he did there, I don't know if Cracker Zach's going to really be able to challenge the top two with this time. Might be getting a whisper of slipstream from the McLaren ahead, but I think the lap might be gone from here.
Pretty much. I mean, we saw he's another one of those people that took the wide line through that bank turn earlier in the track as he comes down towards this hairpin. Makes a bit of a nice exit towards it, a little bit wide compared to some of the other cars, but he hits the next apex quite beautifully. Moving in towards turn 12. So we drive on board with him, going for the apex once again. Clips it nicely, makes the exit a little bit wide, but he's got a nice run going in towards turn 14, which, as you mentioned, is such a slow corner for a lot of these cars.
4 minutes of overtime we've just heard from our broadcast director. Shout out, mate. And, well, we will see if anyone is able to improve on their lap from here. The McLaren pits ahead of Cracker Zach. And it looks like a pretty good line into the final corner. But checkered flag for P3 in the session. What has that wide run done for him? Not much in terms of benefit. He will not improve there at the end of the session. And I think this is probably a good opportunity to remind everybody tuning in that this is a charity race, and we are supporting the World Food Program. Our charity link is in the Twitch header. Make sure that you head onto that page and donate. We've already received $80 of donations, and that was within the last 15 days for drivers preparing for this event. So let's make sure that we hit our mark, everybody. A £500 target, and £65 has already been raised.
Never forget, it's all for charity, and that's what it's all about. As much as we do like to see some great racing at the end of the day, make sure you donate if you have the means to do so, and help feed the world. As we take a look on board with Seth, so we do have that overtime going for the drivers right now. Quite a few of them have pitted, though.
Yeah, it looks like we aren't going to be seeing many more drivers finish their laps there too, coming across the line just then. I don't see much change in the timesheets, so I think drivers just getting their final race prep done as they bring their cars into the pits. And it's likely that we will be seeing a pit stop or two in this race. Pit strategy is something that's definitely going to define things here.
Yeah, no required pit stops. This isn't Formula 1, but you do got fuel. You need to make sure you make it all the way through the race. These cars don't really have the same fuel efficiency that Formula 1 cars do, or the same level of fuel in the tanks as these are. Basically just race versions of street legal cars, right? So as we see Seth move in towards the turn 10 hairpin, we saw him be a little bit squirrely Perhaps that's something with the Hyundai. Maybe it's just not super confident with the track, but he makes a nice apex on that hairpin. Doesn't run wide, which is very nice to see. Makes it towards the next apex a little bit wide towards the entry.
Yeah, just a little bit. You see the auto blip of the Hyundai working itself on the downshifts into the hairpin here, and that's something else that we should probably highlight about these GT4 cars. They do have proper fully semi-automatic transmissions. That's a bit of a misnomer, fully semi-automatic, but the long and short of it is the drivers don't have to worry about lifting on the upshifts or blipping on the downshifts. They can change gears like they do in a Formula car. That said, there's still plenty that can go wrong in a car like this, especially if you push the anti-lock brakes and traction control too hard.
I mean, unlike open wheelers, right, you do get anti-lock brakes and you do get traction control, which is very, very useful for cars that don't have the aerodynamic grip that we see in open wheelers, right? As we see, ooh, hits the wall, barely able to save it, going into turn one, right on the end of that. The session is now over. So I think he's just having a grand old time waiting for the session reset, and the race will be underway very soon.
Yeah, that it will. Well, now we see those results. Samuel McGill on pole position here for the Charity Drive Dubai GT4 Challenge. Captain Foxy was pretty close to him later on, but well, we'll see if the Maserati can fight back, especially with its straight line speed.
Yeah, and I don't want to count out these Mercedes AMG GT4s either. We see Crackerzak and Guayondo in third and fourth position. Hazewalker, Sin GT4, and then McLaren of Ruben Das, GT4 570S.
Yep, indeed. Really awesome job in qualifying from everybody, and big ups to Hazewalker for doing the lap that he did. He's in the Twitch chat. It says it's 6/10 up on his best in practice. So really awesome to see that drivers are still finding time here right at the very end.
We are just about loading back in. Once again, it's a rolling start, and we have a physical safety car for any sort of safety car stuff that moves on the track. As cars start lining up on the starting grid.
Yep, indeed. This is going to be a rolling start. It's going to be quite difficult for drivers at the rear of the field to get this done. And there's been a lot of talk from race control about taking it easy, taking it very easy through these first few turns, because remember, it is a pretty long race and you don't want to get in too many toss-ups on those first laps. GT racing, endurance racing is all about surviving to the end, and that's what the majority of these drivers will be hoping for.
Quite a few disconnects happening there. I think there was a session skip vote, which probably shouldn't have happened, but we'll wait for the drivers to reconnect here.
Yeah, this is a bit of a problem. Of course, race control, the admins here at the Charity Drive will do their utmost to make sure that everybody gets back into the session.
I need to teleport. My observer van ended up on the grid. Yeah, that's a problem.
It is indeed. Well, sometimes this sort of stuff just happens in online racing events, and sometimes we just have to work our way through.
Yeah, how do I get this back to the pit? Sorry, I don't really do Assetto all that much, so hopefully
well,
someone will be able to help me out here.
If it helps your situation, I was unable to teleport back to the pits myself. in my spectator van. So evidently there's a few issues that need to be ironed out here.
Hi,
We
I'm
still-
here to explain the issues. The server just had a ping spike, which sadly it sometimes does when you switch from quali to race. Sorry about that. We restarted the 2-minute countdown. You've got enough time to reconnect.
Thank you very much,
Thank you
Martron
for-
7.
Sorry about that.
Yep. Martron 7 are great admin here.
Safety car
Dan-
driver too, because both of the other ones have technical issues.
Oh,
Goodness
One
me.
guy's PC basically exploded, and the other one doesn't have enough file size to install all the cars. And wonderful stuff is going on, and I think that's just a sign. If everything bad happens before the race will be good. So
okay.
that's what my motto is.
Any chance I can get a teleport to the pits? In my
If you
transit
need to
van?
hit the wheel on the left, and then press escape while it's still standing still, and then teleport the pits there.
That's
That's how you do it.
me.
If you still can't do it,
That's-
then
Yeah,
people
that's
have
the
a
thing.
extra chicane in the last corner. That could be fun.
Yeah,
Well,
that's the thing. That's the issue I was facing, Martron.
The unfortunate thing is I don't have my wheel set up or anything right now, so I
You
can't
don't?
actually move my car. So
You just need to click the wheel, and while standing still, you can teleport to the pits once the race starts, but you can't do before unless you bind a button for it. Assetto Corsa codes for
okay.
you. Anyways, I have to do some safety car driving, so I'll see you later.
You
All
go
right.
and do that. All right. Well, it looks like we are starting to get things rolling here. Safety car moving to the front of the queue, and then everyone will be commanded to get their races going. And I believe there's going to be one formation lap here. We shall see. Regardless, it actually looks... it doesn't look good for our pole sitter. I do not see him behind the safety car there.
Yeah, technical issues kind of feel really, really bad. Our pole setter in that Red Bull Racing Chevy, Samuel McGill, is not able to start the race and ends up starting from the pit lane, so that's going to be pretty difficult, but we might be able to see him move his way up through the grid as he was quite a bit quicker than everybody else through, but does feel pretty good for Captain Foxy. He doesn't have to hold him off through the twisty sections, although Cracker Zach was making very quick work of sectors 1 and 3 as well. So we'll see if Captain Foxy is able to hold him off at the race start. Actually, Samuel McGill finally connected here. And he's right
moved to the front of the
behind
field.
safety car just fine. Yep.
All right, so crisis averted there for Samuel McGill. And with that little blip out of the way, we can get this race underway. There's it's a nice sedate tour around this track. I mean, I know we went over it in qualifying, Nick, but I think it's worth highlighting again just how nice this track is to drive. I mean, I obviously haven't driven it in these cars specifically, but I've taken a lot of different machinery and sim racing around this circuit, and it's quite pleasurable for a modern venue.
Modern tracks get a lot of flack for being kind of all samey. I think this one is pretty nice. It's got some interesting features. That bank turn, turn 9, turn 14 being that very steep uphill and banked left-hander. Some excited points on the track. I mean, we're talking about turn 10 as a primary overtaking zone. Any other points in the track you think we might see some overtakes on this first lap?
I think at least a few people are going to have a go in turn 1. I mean, obviously, drivers will be trying their best to take it easy, and I suppose some might see that as an opportunity to fling one up the inside and gain some spots early on. But yeah, really, I'd echo what you said, that the hairpins, the myriad hairpins around this place are where we'll be seeing most of the moves at the end of the long straight in particular.
Making their way towards turns 13 and 14 now. Mark turn 7, of course, driving the safety car as our admin. And a little bit about the safety car. You see the yellow blinking lights. That means no passing the safety car. But if safety car does come out, it'll come out to a random spot on to the grid, as you do. If it has a green light, that means pass the safety car. If you are the car immediately behind the safety car, and if it's a yellow light, it means no passing. So, cars that end up behind the safety car but ahead of our race leader will end up passing, getting back to the back of the grid, and then making their way up until the safety car comes back in. As we see 2 by 2 now going into the start, Samuel McGill, he's looking for the green. Of course, the start-finish line here is not actually the start line because of that last turn. We don't want anything else. So the actual start line is a little bit further down the track. Samuel McGill is our pole sitter, but the inside line, turn 1, is going to be Captain Foxy. We're now underway. Captain Foxy using that straight line speed to his advantage, looking towards the inside of turn number 1. Now gets ahead, going in towards that apex. Captain Foxy is going to try to hold off on to Samuel McGill now. Turn number 2, the AMG's falling behind. Samuel McGill making his way towards the outside, towards the next turn of the track. I believe that is turns 3 and 4. Might be having a look towards the banked sector in turn number 9, as he's right on the tail of Captain Foxy, keeping that sector speed in the first sector to his advantage. So getting a little bit close. Might be close to contact as we move in towards turn number 9.
Oh,
now he's having a look towards the inside. The banking helping Captain Foxy maintain speed going in towards the straightaway. They're neck and neck now, and this AMG behind of Cracker Zach is getting the slipstream, moving in towards turn number 10. Captain Foxy still in the lead of the race right now, but Samuel McGill having a cheeky look towards the inside of turn number 10. He makes the move happen, and it sticks. Now he's got the better speed, but the wraparound, the cost back coming in from Captain Foxy. He's able to maintain it, but now moving in towards turn number 11. It's still neck and neck. Captain Foxy has the inside line going in turn number 12. Another hairpin on the track, but take a look at this AMG. He's right on the back of Samuel McGill. They keep on keeping on through this. Now into turn number 14 is the next potential overtaking spot here for Samuel McGill. But it looks like he's just falling in line. This is going to be a very tight turn. He looks towards the inside once again, up this uphill. And the switch around might not happen. He goes a little bit wide, Captain Foxy, but he's able to maintain the speed, gets the inside line going into turn number 15. And this is a very intense first lap thus far. Captain Foxy still maintaining the lead of this race after getting it into turn number 1. Looking towards the inside once again is Samuel McGill. He wants to get his advantage towards the twisties, but that straight line speed of the Maserati is very difficult for him to get in to front of. Samuel McGill now looking towards the inside of turn number 1. This is an intense battle for the lead right now. Goes towards the inside. They nearly make contact, but once again, better speed into that first corner for Captain Foxy. Samuel McGill now barely in the lead in terms of the timing sheets. Has the inside line going in towards the next turn. Cracker Zach looking maybe towards the outside of Captain Foxy in the meantime. This Mercedes AMG keeping up with the race leaders quite well.
Wow, what a first lap that was. Titanic battle between the leaders, and it just goes to show how well this track is suited for racing and passing. We saw plenty of dives there by McGill, but Captain Foxy was just able to come back at him, get the over-under done, line it up, get the straight line exit, and use the Maserati's straight line speed to his advantage. Really awesome fight here, and it looks like under threat for third now is Cracker Zach, because Guayando is on the racing line, very late on the brakes, gives room to the inside, and oh, that is deep there from Cracker Zach. He does maintain the position, though. The battle of the AMGs is looking beautiful right now.
Same machinery, same entry, perhaps. Nah, these are all individual driver entries. Remember to donate if you have the means to, as we are raising money for the World Food Program. Guayando eventually makes a stick out of Cracker Zach, moving in towards the next turn. I kind of want to see the observers take out this battle. Guayando in the lead right now, but towards the inside, this banked turn number 14. Might be a nice overtaking opportunity for some of these drivers, but Guayando is able to keep Crackerzack off of him for the time being. These AMGs neck and neck, and they were able to keep up with the leaders very well on the first 2 laps. They've now fallen behind as they are fighting each other. Moving in towards turn number 1, Crackerzack gonna get the slipstream on Guayando. Maybe look towards the inside here. Remember, no DRS because these are GT cars, but here we go. Move towards the inside, not gonna happen. Perhaps gonna look towards turn 10 for them.
Yeah, or even into this sequence of corners coming up. If you get a good run out of turns 2 and 3, you're able to potentially fling one up the inside of turn 5. And I saw Crackerzack thinking about that. He was taking the wide line into turn 3. The track opens up a little here to the inside, but looks like the braking zone is just too short for him really to have a big go of it.
Yeah, but these AMGs, we saw them do very well in the first and third sectors. The straight line speed not quite up there with the Maserati. But as I come in towards the next hairpin, we're going to see if Crackerzack's going to be able to have a run in onto Guayando. Was able to defend well on the outside earlier in the race. So we'll see if they're going to be able to make that one stick. Up towards the inside goes Crackerzack. He has the look for it. Decides against it as they make the turn back around towards turns number 11 and then 12. The next hairpin might be another opportunity. A little bit of a run wide from Guayando. Not going to be punched by Crackerzack, though.
Yeah, it looks like now in terms of race pace, Guayando has it on Crackerzack. You can see that Zack is trying his darndest here to stay in touch, but the gap is just staying the same right now. Both of these drivers obviously driving the wheels off those Mercedes, but not much to be done right now. I think this is the point of the race where the drivers will be getting into their rhythm for the full race to come. Battle between Aston Martin and McLaren, meanwhile. That's Soggy Bread chasing Rybal here, and fancies a look around the outside. He's got the better run. Got a very nice exit out of the hairpin there, but the Aston Martin still has the inside. Here's that late apex that we kept talking about. Wasn't quite hooked up there for Soggy Bread, but managed to keep it on the black stuff. And we see Seaweed Beard there having to pull into the pits just up ahead there. Unless that's a lapped car I was looking at, most likely. We'll have to wait and see. A couple of drivers receiving penalties so far as well, but looks like race organizers clearing a couple of those. This is a titanic battle here for 17th position, and wow, look at that. We also have a Toyota Supra in the midst of all this as well. ENC Dark, let's see what he can do to be the cat amongst the pigeons here.
Oh, I do see the move finally being made by Soggy Bread, but as we see I call it a BMW Supra, because that's what it is.
Yeah, fair enough.
Making some work with some of these other European cars, right?
Yes.
Unfortunate Toyota can't make that in their home country, but it is what it is. This is a very intense battle, but I also want to look a little bit further up the field. Elizabeth Fraser and Malta 1405 have been battling it out, as well as Nathan Vaughn. You see Elizabeth Fraser looking towards the inside of this twisty section as they make their way out of turn 11 in towards turn 12. This has been very close between this... I can't get the make of the car. The Chevy Elizabeth Fraser is running versus Nathan Vaughn's what is that? Sin.
It's mid-engine at the very least.
Front engine versus mid-engine. You know, it's the same thing. But
oh my goodness!
Vaughn misses the brakes completely. Oh, unfortunate. Trying to make a safe rejoin back onto the track, is able to do so just barely, but completely loses the position in the battle. Unfortunately, doesn't get, or fortunately for her, doesn't get caught by Malta 1405 further back, but that does not feel very good that we're running so close earlier on.
Yeah, that was a bit of a heart and mouth moment there for Elizabeth Fraser, and amazingly, it looked like Nathan Vaughan avoided getting slammed in the back. Moving a little bit forward, we've got Dexit here battling with Milan in a BMW Supra, as you say. And looks like this is a battle of two front-engine rear-wheel drive cars. Let's see if Milan actually has the pace here, because it seems like he has a bit of a look. The Supra runs wide to give him room, but not able to get it done. That's the thing. If you go for an inside move at that corner, you deal with a tighter exit, and that means that you're going to lose some straight line momentum. Sometimes the outside line is not the worst place to be.
Yeah, we saw it in lap number 1 with those switch arounds between Captain Foxy and Samuel McGill. This time around, though, these cars a little bit further back. They're just getting into the pace of things right now. Even further up, Hasselwalker and Seth relatively close together, but they are just kind of falling in line for the time being. We see Seth go wide once again. He's really struggling for grip in that Hyundai, but he's able to make it very fast regardless.
Yeah, absolutely he is. The Hyundai, of course, looks a little bit out of place amongst all of this purebred GT4 machinery, but as you said, Seth is definitely making it work very nicely. A pretty good qualifying performance, managed to gain quite a bit on the first lap. We look a bit further back though, because Dixit now lining up Ruben Das for a maneuver. Look at that over-under attempt. Oh, those corners coming thick and fast in the final sector of the lap. But you don't want to really go for the move in the final corner. You've got a really long straight coming up, and it's much better to try and get the slipstream down the front straight for a move into turn 1. Having said that, it looked like a slight mistake for Dexit there in the final corner. Ran across the curb, and the car got unstable on him. So we'll have to wait and see for that battle. Meanwhile, looks like Crackerzak's gotten back ahead of Guayando.
Yeah, but they're just kind of running together for the time being. I think as the comms are currently set out in such a way that teams of the same, or that drivers of the same manufacturer are all in comms together, so they might be communicating, trying to come with some strategy to potentially catch these leaders. As we look forward in the grid, Samuel McGill lapping some cars, as it were, very, very fast in this Red Bull Chevy. As behind, he's pulled a 1.9 second gap on Captain Foxy in the Maserati. That straight line speed just not going to be able to deal with Samuel McGill from behind him, as you can't really deal with him in the twisties.
Yeah, indeed. I think the gap is just too much to handle at the moment. It seems that
meanwhile,
Captain
further back,
Foxy's... Oh, yeah.
Ruben Dawson, Dexit. Getting very hairy. Switch around happening. Dexit looking towards the inside of this next turn 11. Outside line into turn 12. They are just going to follow single file. Never mind. Outside line once again. Dexit looking for the switch around back onto Ruben Das. And he's got good speed coming out onto that exit, but he's not able to make the move stick. We're moving in towards turn 14 now. And he once again moves towards the outside. Maybe looking for the late apex here. As we see, Ruben Das goes a little bit early on the apex. Oh, they contact! Dexit runs into the back of Ruben Das and ends up having to pull away from the maneuver.
And all of that battling has brought Nathan Vaughan right into this as well. Look at him go. He's fancying a move on Dexit.
Right inside in the final turn, making the way towards the straightaway. He's got a much more streamlined car. He will not make the move stick, but now he's right on the tail of Dexit. Moving into turn number 1. Looks towards the outside. Dexit trying to make the move on the inside, keep this position. But the outside line can be very potent if he's got the moves, or if he's got the speed going into it. Instead, I'm going to make a look further down through this twisty section. He's right on the tail of Dexit once again. As they make their way around turn number 4. Might look for a move towards turn number 9, perhaps. We've seen a lot of action in that banked turn. Right now, just keeping his pace.
Oh, speaking of action, look at this. Goodness me. Guayando and Crackerzak having to find their way through traffic here. And looks like in the midst of that, they have switched positions once again. And is that Captain Foxy just ahead of them there? It is indeed. Samuel McGill's gap has just ballooned, hasn't it? Out to 7.5 seconds. Now, I think traffic definitely has something to do with that. McGill, it seemed, had a much better time finding his way past the traffic than any of these drivers did. Oh, and the moves continue here. Nathan Vaughan trying
Nathan
on
Vaughan.
Dixit.
Yeah, that inside line, you think it's very potent going into the hairpin, but you have the switch around coming back in towards turn 11. It's a nice overtaking opportunity, but making it stick is very, very difficult for the time being, at least. They're still very, very close. Might try to make the move happen once again into turn 14. We've seen that as a potential overtaking spot in this race as well as they make their way into turn 14. They both take the same line.
Oh,
the
no!
apex in collision with the traffic. Oh, that's so unfortunate for Dexit. I'm not exactly sure who he bumped into, but it was definitely traffic he was trying to lap at the time. And, I mean, you're in the corner. There is no moving out to the side quite yet, but just a little bit faster moving on the racing line and not wanting to give up the position. Nathan Vaughan absolutely wrecks him. Moves him back behind now, Elizabeth Fraser. Dexit having a very unfortunate race right now. 2 collisions thus far.
Yeah, that is tragic there for Dexit. Moves out of the top 10 now. Just holding on to 11th place, sorry. 3.5 seconds behind Elizabeth Fraser in the Camaro, who is now trying to line up a move on Nathan Vaughan. Remember, these two were together before, but Vaughan is going to try his best here to deal with Hazza Walker as well. Plenty of 3-car battles forming around this track. I mean, you can see it on the track map. Samuel McGill, I mean, he's all off on his own. He's in his own world right now. Battle for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. 5th, 6th, and 7th, and then we've got this battle for 8th place between 3 cars. It's awesome to see this kind of hard racing this early on. Hopefully it continues.
Indeed, hopefully it does. No overtaking attempts being made into turn number 10 quite yet, as these cars are still very close together. I want to take a look further up, though. Captain Foxy under pressure from the 2 Mercedes AMGs behind. That straight line speed has been very nice for Captain Foxy, but once again struggling comparatively in this 1st and 3rd sectors, trying to maintain the lead over Guayandu and Zach.
Yeah,
he's out of turn 14
quite the
alive,
struggle. Yep, he is keeping it alive. And speaking of alive, we have a donation that has just come in a minute ago from John P. $25 that raises our total money raised to £85 sterling of that £500 target. Thank you so much, John. Your support is really appreciated. Make sure to donate through our link in the Twitch header.
Very nice cause. Love doing charity events and love seeing even more of this. I'm a bit rusty on the sim racing commentary, though. But I'm enjoying it. How are you feeling right now?
Oh, yeah. Are you kidding? I'm loving this. There's been some fantastic battles happening all throughout the field. A bit of drama to spice things up. Yeah, we had those slight server issues at the start, which, wouldn't be an online racing event without some kind of issue on that end. But I think, we've seen a lot of drama, mainly for Dexit, with traffic really bringing him down. And that's something that the drivers are going to have to sort out here throughout this race. They've got to be aware of cars coming up behind them, and likewise, I think the cars making the passing will have to try and make their intentions known very early. We want as many people as possible to get to the end of this one.
Yeah, Guayando looked for a move onto Captain Foxy, went extremely wide, was now 1.2 seconds back, so unfortunately for the Mercedes AMGs, they're going to have to go on the attack a little bit later. Once again, make up the lost time onto Captain Foxy. Zach now behind Guayando, 0.7 seconds. As we move further down the field, Seth looking towards the outside of Ruben Das. Unable to make the move stick, but they make the switch around back in towards the next corner, turn 13. Once again, turn 14, we've seen multiple different approaches to this corner. It's very tight spacing, but we might see a pass opportunity here from Seth as he's been very racy today. They both take the same line, but in towards the inside, making the late apex happen. Seth now in the lead, moving in towards turn 15 and turn 16, the double right-hander. He's got more speed, but he's still got the outside line, looking for the switch around, takes the apex a little bit earlier, and can't make the move stick, but into turn 1, he's got a good run.
Yeah, he has. Unfortunately, it looked like he's... it looks like he's forgetting to shift gear, potentially. I'm seeing that car bouncing off the rev limiter. Happened in 3rd gear out of the final corner and in 4th gear as well. Maybe he's just giving himself a little more space to try and attempt the move. But, oh dear, am I seeing a tiny bit of damage on that Hyundai? Yeah, the bonnet lid's come loose. That's unfortunate there for Seth. Of course, damage is at 50%, I believe, in this server. So cars can take a beating, but you don't want to do that too much.
Further back down the field, Hazel Walker and Nathan Vaughn getting pretty close. Nathan Vaughn has made some quick work of other places on the track as he makes a look towards the inside of turn number 7. Move around to turns 8 and 9. That banking, we see multiple different lines through there. A little bit of a later apex coming in for Nathan Vaughn, excuse me, and Hasselwalker makes a mistake, runs wide, now gets pulled back behind Nathan Vaughn, Elizabeth Fraser, and Dexit, as Elizabeth Fraser has been battling Nathan Vaughn throughout this entire race. We saw her run a little bit through a turn earlier, but still looking very nice. Makes the move towards the inside to turn number 10 with the turn number 11 take back from Nathan Vaughn, and he's comfortably in the lead, moving in towards turn number 12. Elizabeth Fraser looking for the later apex, maybe the switch around, but take a look at Dexit in towards the inside of Elizabeth Vaughn.
Wow.
Can he make the move stick? Yes, he does. And it's had a bit of an unfortunate race, but still in that Mercedes AMG has been able to make the moves happen. Elizabeth Vaughn looking towards the outside, potentially into turn number 14. Looking for the later apex, perhaps. Doesn't get the apex at all. Elizabeth Vaughn not able to retake the place.
Wow, that was quite the move there.
Excuse me.
Yeah, of course, yeah. That was quite the move, wasn't it? And we saw a big defense from Dexter as well. I think he knows that maybe his pace is not as consistent as it could be, though he is on the headlight flash there, saying to Seth, hello, I am now the car in your rearview mirror.
Yes, but at the same time, he's making up the gap to Ruben Doss once again. Might be looking for a move later in the lap as we take a look back towards that battle for second. Captain Foxy still 1.3 seconds ahead of Guayan, though. Able to keep the two Mercedes AMGs at bay for the time being. Slight timing board hit, but kick up as we saw Malta in the wrong position there. But still, this Hyundai, it's not a car we normally expect to do well in these GT4s, but he's making it work very well. Nice for the Korean manufacturer this time around.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, you can see just how out of place the Hyundai looks. It basically looks like a blob next to all of these race-bred GT4 machines, but man, it does have quite a bit of pace, doesn't it? He is able to get some good speed out of that thing, and he is piling the pressure on Ruben Doss. Yeah, a little bit of a lockup there.
That's so unfortunate. I mean, he's got so much to handle in that car. We see it slipping and sliding quite a bit through some of these turns. It's got oversteer some turns, understeer the other. It's a very snappy car, and that's very difficult to deal with, but that's the car he chose for this race. And as that bonnet, or hood, as I would call it, is popping up off the car, it's going to make things a little bit worse for him aerodynamically.
Yeah, it is. Unfortunately, I just saw that notification that Multi1405 is disconnected from the server, and Multi was running pretty well in the midfield as Elizabeth Fraser tries to get this position back on Dexit. But again, it's just not working through that banked corner. You could see that she was lining up the late apex, getting the straight exit, trying to get a run through these last couple of corners. It hasn't worked out for her this time, though. Let's see indeed how things turn out here for the big red Camaro, because she's embroiled in the midst of a 4-car fight right now. She's got Vaughn and Dexter ahead of him, and then has a Walker behind who, remember, went off a little bit earlier and had to slow down. That might have been an automatic cut track penalty. I'm not too sure.
We're seeing a stop-and-go penalty for Seth, as he was in the pit lanes there, so unfortunate. Dexit, or was that Dexit behind him? No, that wasn't Dexit behind him. There's a car that looks suspiciously like Dexit. It's a Mustang behind Seth. I think that's Lord Knight. Not Lord Knight, excuse me. Who is that? Actually, that was Malta. Okay.
Malta's back in the
serving
session.
A penalty. Yeah.
All right then. I thought for a second that we might have lost Malta, but turns out we have not. And looks like this fight for 7th place has spread out a little bit, but we've seen just how quickly drivers can make up time in this race so far. Plenty of mistakes being made, I think, in a lot of these battles as the heat of the fight gets to the drivers. We check back in, meanwhile, with 2nd place, and well, this Maserati is running quite well for Captain Foxy. Thought that he might be under threat a bit earlier, but it seems that Guayando and Crackerzak, having worked their way through the first part of the traffic, have not quite been able to keep up.
Indeed, they haven't been able to keep up, and it's that Maserati, just very strong Sector 2, but also has been able to pull off some very nice times in that Sector 1 and Sector 3 that we saw him be a little bit worse for wear compared to Samuel McGill, compared to Crackerzak in qualifying. Taking a look further back, though, Lord Knight making a move onto Seth, potentially.
Okay, so we've just gotten some news from our broadcast director, Dan No Skill. Big shout out to you, mate. Thanks very much for bringing us these pictures on the Charity Drive Twitch. Apparently, the pit entry detection line is in the wrong place, and thus people are being assigned penalties that they don't really deserve. So that's why Race Control is clearing all of those penalties.
It's a nice reset. See, 27 Tom 4 plays going off in turn number 10. Gonna try to rejoin safely. Stops on the side of the track, doesn't want to run into Samuel McGill, our race leader. But now, Captain Foxy has got to be very careful with this rejoin. Nah, it's Tom 4 plays. Doesn't want to get in the way of anyone else. Rejoins the track behind the leaders.
I think that's a good benefit of us racing at a slick modern venue with plenty of tarmac and concrete runoff areas. There's a lot of room to stop your car by the side of the racetrack and let people go through. And it looks to me like Tom has managed to get going without much further incident. We haven't given much airtime to Samuel McGill, have we? He's just, ever since he took the lead back from Captain Foxy, he has been on a mission, hasn't he?
Yeah, just run away with the race, just like Red Bull in Formula One. He's in the Red Bull livery. It makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Right? Yep, indeed. And I think his, the pace that he showed in qualifying, I think, was just the start. He might have been focusing his practice on race runs just to try and get the best out of the car, because remember, you do have to think about tyres as well in these cars. The tyres do last quite some time in GT4 machinery, but you still have to deal with wear and potentially overheating them. So maybe he's just been focusing on that, trying to manage the heat of the tyres while managing to go very quick. Others might be having trouble keeping their tyres down to temp. We look back from the rear wing of the Schwede Motorsport machine here of Dexit at Elizabeth Fraser, and it seems that Hazza Walker has managed to catch back up to her a little bit. We might be seeing a move between these two soon.
Yeah, I mean, it's been constant battling between 7th and 10th place between these 4 cars. Nathan Vaughn all the way down to Hazza Walker, although Nathan Vaughn starting to pull a bit further ahead of Dexit now. Hazelwalker, though, I mean, he's looking for potential gaps in Elizabeth Fraser, as she did have some issues earlier. We saw her run off the track, trying to make a move on Nathan Vaughn earlier in the race. Making a move towards turn 10 seems to be likely for Hazelwalker, but he just doesn't have the straight line speed compared to that Chevy. And Elizabeth Fraser will be able to keep Hazelwalker at bay for the time moving. Wait, never mind, it spoke too soon. Making the move towards the inside with the switchback now from Elizabeth Fraser. She's got the better line moving in towards turn number 11, but slows down. And Hazelwalker makes the move stick.
Oh, okay. That's probably Elizabeth Fraser thinking discretion is the better part of valor, and she can hold herself up and try for another move. How about right now? That move will come as we're on board now in the Camaro. Inside line should work pretty well here. Yep, making a move indeed.
Inside of turn 14, but we know the late apex has been so powerful. Right on the inside, she has to slow down so much, and that's not what you need if you're trying to take the position back from Hazelwalker. She does have a good run moving in towards turn number 16, though, but it looks like Hazelwalker will be able to make this one stick for the time being. Elizabeth Fraser just I think it's just a mistake to go up the inside of turn 14. We've seen cars try to make it happen, but every time the car that takes the late apex or the outside line ends up ahead. Back towards turn 1, though. Elizabeth Fraser trying to make the move. This won't happen. The defense comes in from Hazelwalker just in the nick of time. They've fallen back quite a bit from Dexit now. 3.8 seconds behind is Hazelwalker. This battling has been fierce.
Yeah, that it has. And again, I think maybe Elizabeth Fraser potentially not feeling too confident with the move up the inside of turn 1. Either that or Hazelwalker's brakes are just that good. I mean, you'd think with the difference in the cars that he's driving a slightly lighter machine, but Fraser is going to go for it again up the inside here. Did I see a whisper of oversteer from the Camaro? Maybe. Contact on the exit.
Slight contact. Oh, unfortunate. Elizabeth Fraser ends up scrubbing off way too much speed heading into the straight. And the gap is now being extended by Hazelwalker after that. I mean, up the inside of turn number 9, we've seen a couple cars try to make it, but once again, banked turns, inside, outside, doesn't make that much of a difference in terms of where you're positioned. It happens to be more important just to carry speed through these banked turns. Elizabeth Walker found that out the hard way.
Yeah, that she did. Well, it looks like things have calmed down in that battle for the moment, but it's anything but calm in other parts of the track. Rybel having to work his way through a little bit of traffic here as Seaweed Beard is not that far behind. In fact, going for the pass. Not too sure what happened there to Rybel, but seems the exit wasn't with the Aston Martin. Is he going to try and come back here at the hairpin? No. Once again, you know, we're only half an hour into a 90-minute race, and I think if you know that you've lost it, probably for the best to pull out.
And Nelson made contact a little bit further back. Lord Jesus was looking towards Rybel, and that's a bit unfortunate. I want to take a look further up, though, as Guayando now making attacking moves on Captain Foxy.
Oh.
Has made his way up towards the Maserati. We see turn number 9. Captain Foxy opting for that outside line, but this time the inside line is sticking for Guayando, moving in towards the straight line. This is where Captain Foxy has been so good. The straight line speed of that Maserati begins to pull a little bit of the gap on the straights, but now making a move towards turn 10 might be possible for Guayando. He tries to move around the outside here. Look for the switchback. Now on the inside line is Captain Foxy. Is going to be able to make that one stick, moving in towards turn number 12. Guayando, though, he's got better traction in these twisties, goes a little bit outside, looking for a late apex now on towards turn number 12. Makes it stick, but can't get past Captain Foxy quite yet. So they continue moving in towards turn number 14. We've seen some moves happen in this turn, just hitting the late apex, making the move around the outside has been so powerful. The switch around goes for the late apex is Guayando, but a better line from Captain Foxy keeps him ahead.
And that should be enough because they've got the front straight coming up. And Captain Foxy can use that straight line speed of the Maserati to get it done. You can see the difference in the attitude of these cars. Look at the traction from the Mercedes. That is fantastic to see. But once they get up to speed, look, the gap is equal, and then Captain Foxy just starts to pull away, but the slipstream is with Guayando here. It's a bit too late to make a move into turn one there, but you see that Captain Foxy is trying to run some defensive lines here. He's going for the apex early, which might be killing his exits.
I mean, it might be. As I see, Guayando, he's been opting for these late apexes this entire time, and almost made the move stick on turn number 9 earlier. They're approaching turn number 9 again, but now Guayando, 0.4 seconds behind. A little bit later on the braking, takes the later apex. Moving in towards turn 9 now. We'll see who moves for the inside line versus the outside line. Both can be relatively powerful. Instead, there's line single file through the turn. And looks like Captain Foxy will be able to keep this Mercedes at bay for the time being.
Yeah, only for the time being. And as we see that, have a look at the gap for the lead now. It's up to 12.8 seconds as, oh, this looks interesting. Nielsen, I'm not too sure how to pronounce that name, right in the midst of this big, huge fight. Seaweed Beard, Ryball, and Lord Yeezus in this one as well. This is looking pretty fantastic. You see Lord Yeezus in the Audi in those rearview mirrors. Who's going to come into turn 1 first here?
Yeah, they've been very, very close for these last couple of laps. Turning positions in and out. Lord Yeezus making a look towards the inside of turn number 1. Should be able to make it stick on Ryball for the time being. But remember, you might be able to have a line further up the track. Lord Yeezus now up ahead of Ryball, moving in towards Seaweed Beard, but we see Ryball trying to make the attack happen back towards turn number 2. Lord Yeezus in that yellow car, as we see the black car, Seaweed Beard, and Ryball in the blue. They have pulled a little bit further apart from each other. I don't think there are going to be any attacks towards turn number 9. As I say that, Lord Yeezus looks towards the inside of Seaweed Beard, makes it stick, and now ahead going into turn number 9. Seaweed Beard trying to look for an outside line potentially, but can't make that one stick around to the straightaway. And Lord Yeezus, this is some very nice racing, making up 2 positions in very quick succession.
Yeah, don't forget, he's had to put on a bit of a recovery drive here, I think. Remember, he had that incident that you pointed out earlier as the McLaren nearly rear ends him. That is wide for Seaweed Beard. That might bring him back into the clutches of Ryball. I can see the lap times here. Nielsen and Lord Yeezus in the 209s.
Captain Foxy Guayando for the
oh, here we go.
Turn number 9, Guayando on the inside of turn number 9. He's now got the lead going into the straight. Captain Foxy just barely faster now, 0.1 seconds ahead. They move in towards turn number 10, but Guayando will have that important outside line. Potentially might be able to make the switchback happen. In comes Captain Foxy. Guayando now late apex towards the inside. Captain Foxy still able to keep the line. Very, very dicey. And Guayando nearly makes the move stick around turn number 9.
Yeah, very nearly. This is a fantastic fight. You can see that in the slower corners, the Mercedes is the car to beat, and I can't imagine how much stress Captain Foxy is going through at this stage. You know, in that first sector, Guayando is all over the back of him, but just manages to eke out a little bit more of a gap down the straights as the Mercedes is so good on the brakes. He won't be able to get by in the final turn, though. It's very hard to line up a move into this last corner.
Yeah, I mean, this Sector 3, you think we're going to see some nice overtaking in turn number 10, but the switchbacks just make it so difficult. You have to be perfect in order to make these moves stick. It's been great defensive driving from Captain Foxy, but once again, Guayando having a look towards turn number 1. He's actually got the straight line speed, got a better exit off the final corner, looks towards the inside of Captain Foxy.
Oh, no!
There's contact and an oversteer, and he's drifted, barely saves the car. But now in comes Crackerzack on the back of Captain Foxy. Guayando now falling 1.92 seconds behind this second place. And Captain Foxy will now be on the defense, not from Guayando, but another Mercedes AMG of Crackersack.
God, that was incredible, and I think very well held from Guayando. Yes, he might have messed up the overtake, but to be able to maintain the fourth place there and only lose about a couple of seconds, I think that's worth respecting. Definitely knows how to control his car when things go south. Well, now it's Crackersack's turn to try and challenge the Maserati for this second spot on the podium, but you see every time they get to that straight, there's just no catching Captain Foxy. That Maserati V8 has got plenty of grunt.
A little bit further down the field, we see Ruben Das, who's been part of that scrap for 7th place earlier on. Now in 6th place, making his way towards Milan, has been making up some time. Elizabeth Fraser and Hazelwalker, though, have been consistently battling this entire time. Elizabeth Fraser really wants to take that 9th place back, as Hazelwalker's now 9 seconds behind Dexit.
Well, this is a fantastic fight still. It's been continuing on. It's a very grueling fight that's been happening for the last 40 minutes as an Audi lap traffic lets them go there. It seems like Elizabeth Fraser not quite able to catch back up to Hazelwalker out of that. Want to remind you once again, we are supporting the World Food Program for the charity drive Dubai GT Challenge. We're currently at 16% of our target. Help us get there. Go to the charity link. It's in our Twitch description.
Dexit 0.3 seconds behind Nathan Vaughn. Now in 8th position, trying to make his way towards 7th place. I mean, he's had to make up quite a few positions. He's got a good run out of turn 16. Making his way towards turn number 1. Might look towards the inside. Nathan Vaughn's got to make the defensive move now. Instead, well, we see the inside move doesn't have the speed to make it happen.
Ooh, too deep.
But Nathan Vaughn a little bit too far on the outside, able to keep the position for the time being. But once again, turn number 9 is fast approaching, and that's where a lot of moves have been made, and some of them have been able to stick. Dexit still half a second behind Nathan Vaughn, moving in towards turns 6 and 7. And Dexit makes some slight mistakes, now a second behind, won't be able to make any moves stick.
Yeah, it looks like things have calmed down in those battles for the time being. We switch to another one. Milan in the Supra, under hot pursuit by Ruben Das in the green McLaren. And ever since we checked in on him last, Ruben Das has been looking very good here. Look at the pace that he's carrying through those hairpins. Evidently the weight distribution of the mid-engine McLaren helping him out there.
Now these front-engine rear-wheel drive cars, with the exception of the Mercedes AMG, which is front mid-engine, right, have been struggling in these corners comparatively. Which is just, you know, front engine rear wheel drive cars, right? Kind of, you have a tendency to oversteer through a lot of these corners, but have been keeping up pace with these mid-engine cars, or these rear mid-engine cars for the time being. Ruben Das, though, doesn't even need to make an overtake happen. As we see Nathan Vaughn go in towards, or Milan, excuse me, go into the pits.
Yeah, and just like that, Elizabeth Fraser and Hazelwalker side by side. It's another attempt by Elizabeth to get by Hazza, but man, her pace is just coming to her at the wrong areas of the track to try and take an advantage. I can't imagine how frustrated she is in that number 91 right now.
Yeah, just stuck behind Hazelwalker this entire time. Remember, she was battling with Nathan Vaughn quite consistently earlier in this race, but she just has been stuck behind Hazza this entire time since Hazza was able to overtake, and Hazza's just not on the same pace level as Dexit and Nathan Vaughn further up. So even though Elizabeth Fraser has the raw pace, is just not able to make these overtakes happen and get to the point on the track where I think she thinks she needs to be.
Rapidly approaching half race time now. This first 45 minutes has just flown by, hasn't it? It's really been just full of action, always something happening out on the racetrack.
We haven't really noticed. Seth, after doing a stop and go, is back up to 10th place.
Good on him.
Indeed. I mean, that Hyundai... I mean, we've been talking about how out of place it looks, but it's just such a skittish car around these corners. Seth making it work, though, but we saw in qualifying, he's right on the limit the entire time. Further up the field, though, we see Samuel McGill not looking for the pits quite yet, but he should be coming in soon, I would have to imagine.
Yeah, I'd say so. And thinking about pit strategy with you know, how good the tires can be on these things, and you know, fuel.
Wait, Elizabeth Fraser made the move on Hasselwalker.
Oh yeah, she
Hold
has.
up. We missed this completely.
Goodness, my apologies. Was completely in race strategy mode there, and the Camaro's ahead.
Yeah, moving in towards turn number 14. I mean, she found the pace where needed, but now on the inside goes Hasselwalker. Can't make it stick. And Elizabeth Fraser, she should be able to pull a gap now, as she was on pace with Nathan Vaughn and Dexit earlier in, but instead opts for the pit.
All right, so, well, Elizabeth Fraser is driving the same car that Samuel McGill is, and she's decided to split the race evenly in two. That's the point I was trying to make just a moment ago. But yeah, it seems that Samuel McGill is deciding to go a little bit longer here on the first fuel stint. You can see how much he's pushing, though. He's just trying his best to eke out as much of a gap as possible. And I think part of that is insurance. If something goes wrong for him, if he messes up the pits somehow, then he has a little bit of time to play with.
Lots of different pit strategies, potentially. In other racing series, we talk about the potential of overcuts, undercuts, all that stuff. Do you think it's advantageous to pit before the people around you or after the people around you on this Dubai Autodrome?
Yeah, that's a good question. As check out Captain Foxy trying to make his way past some traffic here. Having
Samuel
to go
McGill in the
wide,
pits
though.
now. Samuel
Yes.
McGill's in the pits. He might actually be able to make this pit stop and end up only behind these Mercedes AMG, as I think he'll be ahead of Ruben Das, as we see Guayando and Cracker Zach trade positions as Cracker Zach goes into the pits. And so does Captain Foxy doesn't go into the pits. That's just timer board being weird.
Yeah.
Samuel McGill coming out of the pits now. Will end up in, I think, 3rd place due to Cracker Zach pitting, so he'll be behind Guayando and Captain Foxy, who have yet to pit. Cracker Zach making the early pit stop compared to Guayando and Captain Foxy. So we'll see how advantageous that is, getting the early pit stop.
Yeah, we will. And to finish the point we were talking about just before, it's difficult to tell with a race like this. We're not quite sure how well the tires are doing, and generally an undercut or overcut situation in a pit stop is largely down to how well the tires perform straight out of the box. Did they change tires? Did they not? We're not entirely sure. But I think either way, considering the amount of traffic around the circuit at the moment, it probably would be more advantageous to wait for your rivals to pit before you get in yourself, because if you pit early, you stand a chance of potentially losing time to more traffic out there. But every driver has their own race to run. They're all keeping an eye on their fuel numbers, and I'm sure that they'll know what is best for them in their particular situation.
Yeah, Cracker Zach actually comes out of the pits only 5.4 seconds behind Samuel McGill, who looks to be having some trouble getting temperature into the tires, as Cracker Zach is actually making up some time on to his Red Bull Chevy.
Yeah, definitely seems that way. Gap's down to 5.4 seconds between the two of them. So that tells me that either Samuel McGill is not that strong on cool tires right out of the pits, or potentially Crackerzak has less of a pit time to deal with, less fuel to fill up in the car. We'll have to wait and see how this works out towards the end, because McGill is right back on it, isn't he? You can tell just how much he's working the wheel there. He knows this Camaro like the back of his hand.
Yeah, and we see Guayando actually go into the pits as well, so he will be passed by Samuel McGill, and actually making the late pit might just be a mistake, because Crackerzak significantly ahead of Guayando coming out of the pits now. Significantly ahead. Actually, Guayando is going to lose the position on Nathan Vaughn. He hasn't pitted yet. Neither has Dexit, so... but still, pit not... That late pit getting punished severely from Guayando.
Yeah, potentially part of that might be just making mistakes on the way into the pits, making mistakes in the pit lane. You never really know. All kinds of things can go wrong when you're not out there pushing the limits on the track. It can be a real hard reset. Right, so we're just hearing as well that the Maserati should be the one struggling on tyres the most from Dan No Skill, our director behind the scenes, feeding stuff into our ears. That's an interesting point, because it looks like Captain Foxy has gone longer than just about anyone else.
He has, but Samuel McGill is quickly making up the pace difference. He's now 10.5 seconds behind. Was a little bit more behind earlier on. He has been able to pull the gap between him and Crackerzak now. Once again, Nathan Vaughn and Dexit running 4th and 5th. Neither of them have pitted quite yet, so they will be slotting back in around the same spot as Ruben Das and Elizabeth Frazier once they have pitted.
Captain Foxy stays out again. This is an interesting decision. I'm starting to think maybe Captain Foxy is deciding to go long on this first stint so that he has fresher tyres towards the end of the race. But at the moment, it just looks like he's bleeding time.
I mean, he really is. Samuel McGill, I mean, he's been dominant throughout this entire race, and that 9.8 seconds, I mean, the pit stops take a whole lot longer than that, so Captain Foxy might even end up losing this to Crackerzak as Nathan Vaughn takes his pit. Looks like Dexit won't be doing so. Wait, Nathan Vaughn doesn't take his pit. Wait, is Crackerzak taking another pit stop? Wait,
oh,
what?
Oh dear. Well, we did see that the gap had reduced quite a bit between Crackerzak and Samuel McGill. I think maybe Crackerzak underfueled the car.
Potentially. Either way, he comes back out of the pits. He's going to be behind Guayando, might be behind Ruben Das, who has, I believe, taken his pit stop. So this is going to be very, very tight out the pit exit. Looks like Ruben Das will be ahead, and maybe even Milan. So Guayando making a mistake on the earlier parts of the pit, now going to be heavily punished. Or not Guayando, excuse me, Crackerzak will be heavily punished by this.
Yeah, well, he comes out in 7th spot, 2 seconds behind Ruben Das. Okay, we're getting confirmation that the first pit for Crackerzak was actually a drive-through. So, evidently, he drew the ire of the automatic stewards, potentially.
Okay, so that makes more sense. So a drive-through and then a pit. So Crackerzak's got some time to make up on Guayando. He should be able to make quick work of Ruben Das. This Mercedes AMG has been so very consistent in these twisty sections. But as we take a look further upfield, Captain Foxy keeps bleeding time to Samuel McGill. Still hasn't taken that important pit stop yet. Let's take a look. The other people who haven't pitted, Nathan Vaughn, Dexit, are the only other people on the track who have not pitted quite yet. And they are currently sitting 3rd and 4th behind Samuel McGill.
Interesting to see that Captain Foxy just set a 2:06 lap time, and you can see the times right there at the top left. Samuel McGill running a 2:05.6. So that's interesting there. Captain Foxy might have either been backing off or made a mistake on the last few laps, and that might have caused the time to bleed away. Yeah, I honestly don't know how to call this at the moment.
I think I think this might actually, even with Guayando's pit stop being not particularly great, I think this might actually get him in trouble with Guayando once he finally does take his pit stop because of this time that he's bleeding, going on this long run. We'll see if he takes the pit. Once again, we are at the 36 minute mark remaining in the race. Don't forget to donate if you have the means to do so. Charity drive, of course, benefiting the World Food Program. We are 16% of the way to our 500 pound sterling target. We currently are at 85 pounds. So don't forget to donate if you have the means to do so. We see Captain Foxy still making quick work of the traffic for the time being, but Samuel McGill, that gap now down to 8.5 seconds, was 10 seconds a couple laps ago. So I hope Captain Foxy finally takes this pit, because Guayando also making up time right now.
Yeah, well, Captain Foxy is having to deal with some traffic at the moment. One of the Audis up ahead of him, but manages to work his way past without much issue. Did have to get on the headlight flash, though. Is he pulling into the pits here? No. What? This is bizarre.
I mean,
and look at
there
how
was
deep
a
he
question.
ran in the final corner, too.
There was a question in the driver's briefing about if pit stops were mandatory. And the answer was no, but you're probably going to run out of fuel. So I wonder if Captain Foxy thinks he can make a break on a single take of fuel. I don't think he'll be able to stay ahead of Samuel McGill for the duration, though.
Well, yeah, considering the info we've been fed about how hard the Maserati is on his tyres, and the gap is at 8 seconds now and dropping, I'd say that Samuel McGill will be able to get him by the end.
Yep. 34 minutes left. I mean, we see Nathan Vaughn and Dexit still haven't pitted either. And Guayando is closing the gap on a Dexit just fine, but this is very interesting. 0 pits. We're almost an hour into this 90-minute race, and Nathan Vaughn and Dexit and Captain Foxy, they're on such a different strategy compared to everybody else.
Yeah, it will be intriguing to see how the strategy plays out towards the end. Well, let's keep an eye on Crackerzak here, because he is looking at Ruben Das and looking hard. See how much time the Mercedes made up in the braking zone there. We've already seen that the McLaren is quite a nimble car, but it seems the Mercedes, with its traction and its braking performance, is starting to get the better of Ruben Das here.
Yeah, we've seen just how planted this Mercedes AMG has been,
Whoa.
and not even waiting for turn number 9 makes the move in turn number 7, and there's just no way for Ruben Das to recover from that one. I mean, Crackerzak has been running second or third all race, trying to make up for the stop-go penalty and the long pit stop. He is now behind Guayando, so if Nathan Vaughn and Dexit pit, and Crackerzak is able to make up some of this time to his teammate, he should be able to be in a podium position, or very close to a podium position, once L is said and done. But now the gap between Captain Foxy and Seven McGill down to 7 seconds.
Yeah, wow, that's pretty much a lap and a half since we last checked in on the gap, right? So, considering that amount of pace makeup from Samuel McGill, he's definitely going to get Captain Foxy potentially by 10 minutes to go. Just a rough estimate off the top of my head there. I could be on the money, I could be completely wrong, I never truly know. But we'll keep an eye on this fight for 6th place between Crackerzak and Ruben Das, but it seems that Crackerzak, once he made the move, has decided he's going to check out.
Yeah, I mean, he's not even making any defensive moves. He's just going on the racing line for all these turns. It was a half-second gap. Now it's 0.7 seconds. I think he'll be able to make up some time in that Sector 1, where these Mercedes have been extremely powerful. Ruben Das now falling back to a full second behind. So there's no way for him to reclaim the position.
Yeah, no way whatsoever. Here's Dexit, meanwhile, one of the drivers that still has yet to pit in this one. I'm wondering if the lack of pace and consistency we saw from him earlier might have been him just trying to preserve his tires a little bit. Maybe he is also thinking of trying to do the race on a single tank of fuel. I have no idea what the margins are in the Mercedes, but that's part of the fun. It seems that Dexter is starting to catch up to Nathan Vaughan here. You see that he took 3/10 out of him on the last lap. So that Mercedes looking as nimble as ever.
Yeah, but as you see, they're a whole 2 seconds behind Samuel McGill in terms of lap time. Now 6.4 seconds behind Captain Foxy, who is 1.4 seconds slower than Samuel McGill on the track right now.
Yeah, I think pitting for fuel and tires definitely the way to go in this one. The pace advantage on those new tires just seems too great, as you see that the gap is now down to 6.5 seconds for the lead. This is starting to turn into nail-biting stuff with half an hour to go in about 15 seconds time. McGill continuing to drive as hard as he ever has. You can tell that he has put in the time and effort necessary to learn this track like the back of his hand. You see how clean his lines are too. You know, he's using the curbs where necessary, but he's managing to keep the car straight for the most part, as we hear news of Dexit pitting from that fourth spot. We'll see how much time he ends up losing here. Look at the map up in the top right. We see 6th and 7th, Krakazak and Ruben Das just coming out of the final corner, and Dexter's definitely going to lose out to them.
Definitely will. I'm actually concerned if he's going to actually lose out to Elizabeth Fraser. Remember, she took that pit up on Haselwalker and has consistent pace up with Dexit and up with Nathan Vaughn this entire time. Just end up getting stuck behind Haselwalker this after a brilliant move from him earlier in the race. Dexit's out of the pits just ahead of Milan, so Elizabeth Fraser won't be, or not ahead of Milan, excuse me, now behind Milan. Unable to make the move on Dexit with the cold tires, but still Elizabeth Fraser 9.6 seconds behind on Dexit, so staying long turned out to be the right strategy for him. But now the race with Nathan Vaughn is on. Is he going to be able to make the most out of these tires fresh out of the pits compared to Nathan Vaughn, who's still running on the old tires right now?
Yeah, and this is where the undercut will come in, but he's going to have to deal with Milan as well. Has to go wide to get the super room.
Up on the inside of turn 9 goes Milan. They're now in the straight towards turn 10. I do favor the Mercedes AMG in these twisty sections, but the Supra very fast on these straights. Looks for the outside line, which has been very potent for turn number 10. Is he going to be able to keep that outside line, though? He does. Switcheroo not going to happen. He's going to be able to keep the lead in turn 11, and he keeps that lead. But look, Dexit, very, very quick exit on turn 11. Now making a move towards turn number 12. Potentially looking towards the inside here. Doesn't make it stick quite yet. Let's move in towards turns 13 and 14. Turn 14, we've seen some overtakes there this race. Once again, in the pit, Nathan Vaughn, so he's raced with Dexit. He is actually up to Milan, keeping Dexit at bay for the time being. Turn 14, Dexit on the inside. Late apex hit from Milan, and is able to keep the lead.
Only just. Now we come down to the final corner, and with Vaughn now in the lane, Krakazak is going to blast on by, so is Ruben Das, but let's see if this little hold up here behind Milan has thwarted Dexit's fight here. Just getting off the jacks and going now is Nathan Vaughn, and they're going to come out ahead of him. He's going to come out behind of them, rather. So the undercut working out for car 13.
Yeah, even despite being held up by Milan right now, I also want to point out Elizabeth Fraser's been making up some time recently. She's very quick in terms of pace, just as it struggles with overtaking throughout the race. Currently running in 9th place, but her race has been with Nathan Vaughn, Dexit, and Milan this entire time. And with the gap she's pulled over Haselwalker, she's got a chance to move up into these higher positions if she can punish a potential mistake in strategy that's been happening.
Oh, there we we go to the inside. Take it easy, boys. Gently does it.
Yeah, that outside line in turn number 9 has been very nice as well. Once again, that banking really helping carry speed for that outside line. There we go. Foxy finally taking his pit.
There we go indeed. But the question is, how much time is Captain Foxy going to lose to the likes of Guayando and Cracker Zach? They are just coming out of the penultimate corner now, but we stay focused on this magnificent fight between Dexit and Milan. Now that Nathan Vaughan is out there on fresh tires, Dexit wants to get by Milan as quickly as possible, put a car in between himself and his closest rival, but it's not working for him.
Yeah, Milan's been very, very good at defending with this Supra. As we see coming back out onto the trap, Captain Foxy going to be able to maintain second place. 8.5 seconds ahead, 8 seconds now of Guayando, who we've seen been able to make up the gap between him and Captain Foxy, but he's only got 25 minutes left in the race to do so. Taking a look at Milan and Dexit once again. Milan in this Supra has been so good at defending up against this Mercedes AMG.
Good traction though, and traction is paramount at this corner with this circuit, with so many slow corners leading on to straight line sections. It seems though that the Supra is just able to pull ahead in a straight line and a slightly wider line into the first corner as well. I mean, just look at how much time Dexit is making up in these long flowing corners. You know, you'd think that he'd be able to fling one up the inside, but it seems that just straight line speed potentially combined with good traction out of these corners means that Milan might be able to keep it up here, but they make contact.
Oh, Milan too late on the brakes. He had the room, but just didn't have the traction. And, or excuse me, Dexit didn't have the traction, runs into the back of Milan. Milan able to keep the position for the time being, because I don't think Dexit wants to take a penalty from the stewards or that move on Milan.
Here comes Vaughan. Safety car is being deployed with 24 minutes to go.
I think we have a stopped car on track. Yep. Limpet Arch running 19th. Stopped right on the inside of turn number 9, so everyone has pitted. So I don't think we're going to see any safety car pit stops quite yet. This, I think, was what Captain Foxy was actually trying to do. Just pitted a little bit early comparatively, but now the field is going to bunch back up, and Samuel McGill and Captain Foxy are going to be running into each other once again with about 20 minutes left once the safety car comes back in.
Take two, anyone? We saw how good lap 1 was. We might be able to see that happen again. I'm up for a rerun. I hope everyone else is too. Remember that we're supporting the World Food Program for the charity drive this time around. We are still at 16% of our goal, and we need to get that number up, so make sure that you donate. We will be accepting donations even after the race as well. Thank you so much to everyone who's shown their support so far. John P, Sam C, and 2 anonymouses with 20 and 50 US dollars respectively. Big thanks to you all. But, well, I mean, I'm looking forward to the last... well, should we say 15 minutes or so of this race, depending on how long the safety car lasts, with Captain Foxy on fresher tyres than Samuel McGill, who's been absolutely caning it since he made his pit stop.
Yeah, we see safety car actually ended up behind Samuel McGill, but Samuel McGill lets the safety car ahead. So this is actually a bit interesting. To do that. We still see that blinking yellow light on top of the safety car, though, which, nope, they're just going to stay behind. So actually, Captain Foxy won't be right behind Samuel McGill on the restart. Instead, is going to be behind traffic. Who is that behind them? I think that's Gwendolyn Chandler will be between Captain Foxy and Samuel McGill on the restart.
Yeah, that is Gwendolyn Chandler in the olive green Aston Martin there. But it's only one car, remember, and I think that Captain Foxy might be able to make short work of getting by Gwendolyn when the green flag drops. So I'm hoping, in my camp at least, for another great battle for the lead of this race.
I am hoping for one as well. I mean, Captain Foxy on those fresher tires, but you have to remember these Mercedes AMGs, Guayando and Crackerzack, they are what we thought was going to be punished for taking late pits from Guayando especially, and from a missed stop and go from Crackerzack. Really now with the safety car have brought them back into contention for these podium positions, not only against themselves but against Captain Foxy, who was struggling, was able to keep them behind, but was still struggling to keep them behind for so much of this race.
Yeah, I'm expecting that those Mercedes are going to be right on the tail of the Maserati, but you see that there's, I think, 3 cars in between Guayando and Crackerzack, so I think Zach's going to have some work to do at this stage. How many cars is that? Yeah, 3 cars that he's going to have to make his way past here when the green flag comes out once again. We've also got to think about the 6th place battle as well, with Milan actually making it back ahead of Dexit, and Nathan Vaughan is right with them as well. So that could be a 4-way battle now, if you include Elizabeth Fraser in that.
Yeah, I mean, this is going to be a really tight restart. I think, yeah, Elizabeth Fraser, she's got a car between her and Nathan Vaughan. Nathan Vaughan and Dexter are right next to each other. Milan and Dexter are right next to each other. So they will... Elizabeth Fraser, I think, is going to have to make her way through the traffic. Might not be able to get on the back of Nathan Vaughan, who has kind of been her rival throughout this entire race. But we'll see if she's able to do that at the moment. Safety car bunching up the grid at the moment. We see the final cars finally making their way towards the back of the tail.
I'm noticing that Samuel McGill is being very aggressive in his weaving, and I thought he was going to run into the safety car for a couple of seconds there. Fortunately, managing not to. We checked back in with Seth there briefly. It seems that Seth has managed to get his damage fixed since we last saw him. He will be in 11th place and battling with Hazza Walker, and they look to be right in the midst of all the traffic here as well. I mean, I'm looking at that map in the top right, and I'm seeing, you know, 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, all the way up to 10th, but then there's a bunch of cars in between a lot of them.
Yeah, Malta actually in between Seth and Hazza Walker, so Seth gonna have to deal with some of this back marker traffic. Same thing with Elizabeth Fraser, as we already mentioned. Same thing with Crackerzack. Ruben Doss is going to be on the attack mode on Crackerzack right off the restart as well. This is going to be very interesting as you see the final cars making their way to the back of the queue. Last one will be Limpet Arch, who was trying to push to the back of the grid. Safety car currently. I still think is yellow lights.
Ooh, here we go.
Look, nope, pulling in. So restart line once again further down the straight than the start-finish line that you see. Due to the nature of the track, we don't want to have any racing on that final corner, as we are 2x2. Or sorry, 1x1 on the restart. Excuse me. With Samuel McGill, he's weaving right now. He has control of the pace of the race. We'll see if Captain Foxy is going to be able to make the move. Samuel McGill starts now. Captain Foxy will make quick work of the traffic, moving in towards the inside. His race is with Samuel McGill. I think this traffic knows, or Gwendolyn knows, to get out of the way. Captain Foxy now behind Samuel McGill on fresher tires. We had caught.
Yeah.
What happened to Captain Foxy?
Yeah, Foxy, he got big oversteer, got into the wall just then, and it looks like there's damage to the left side of the car. That is disaster for Captain Foxy. Guayando now into 2nd.
Yeah, but Captain Foxy, he's got to move towards the inside now. On to Guayando. He really wants to be able to get this position back. Gwendolyn, meanwhile, is holding up these cars as part of the back marker traffic. But remember, blue flags, not really a thing on these restarts. as Guayando gets passed by Captain Foxy, has the better straight line speed. Once again, Captain Foxy, but he is now 3.8 seconds behind Samuel McGill due to that mistake. I didn't even catch it. I was looking at Samuel McGill. All of a sudden, Captain Foxy was off my screen. And Captain Foxy, just like that, I don't think he has the potential to take the lead of the race anymore.
Yeah, that gap has ballooned out, hasn't it? 3.5 seconds to Samuel McGill, and despite those fresh tires for Captain Foxy, just got a bit too much rotation coming into turn 2, and that cooked it.
Further back, Crackerzak also made a mistake, got passed by Ruben Das Milan and Dexit. So now he's in that fight. Elizabeth Fraser 2.4 seconds behind Nathan Vaughn. Walker trying to make moves onto Elizabeth Fraser at the moment, but it looks like they are just going into file.
Oh dear, 3 wide contact with the traffic. Sorry to interrupt. Milan and oh no, that is Crackerzak spinning in the background just there. Absolute chaos on this restart. Everyone's trying to find their way through, and we're only getting about half of them going in there, with Elizabeth Fraser coming into the pits. Look at this fight. Meanwhile, Soggy Bread with Seth and Crackerzak behind them. They are in the midst of traffic. They've got Hazard Walker up ahead of them. Fraser pits. It looks like ENC Dark is going to get by her. And, oh dear, I'm not looking forward to this fight into turn 1.
Yeah, I mean, we see Seth making towards an outside line, but Crackerzak, he's so desperate to get ahead of Soggy Bread. We see a snap of oversteer coming in from Seth, but he's actually able to make quite a bit of speed back up as I continue to move towards Soggy Bread. It's 3 wide going into the next turn. Crackerzak really wants to get ahead of Soggy Bread because Seth is on the attack mode right now. We're moving into turn number 7 now. Crackerzak on the inside. He's able to make the move stick. No, Soggy Bread further ahead right now, but now the outside line for Crackerzak into turn number 9. He goes for the late apex, can't make the move stick. Now into the straight lines. Crackerzak, he really needs to get a Soggy Bread. He needs to recover his race after falling behind twice on that opening lap. He's got more speed going into turn number 10. Looks for the inside line. There really is no way for Soggy Bread to make the way back around. Never mind. Looks for the snapback on the inside line of the next turn. But here comes Crackerzak. And a huge step of oversteer from Seth. He saves it. Is this Formula D? What is this Hyundai doing?
Oh, wow. This is fantastic. I'm loving this. And the battle is continuing between Dixit and Milan too. That Supra is a thorn in the Mercedes side. You can see that Ruben Das and Nathan Vaughn are staying with them as a result of this. All over the curbs for Dixit. That's going to be a little bit unstable, but talk about instability. Milan, I think, getting some oversteer, and he's going for the pits.
I don't know what happened to Milan in that Supra. He was doing so well, but now Dexit is free to go on to the attack onto Guayando potentially. But now Guayando, he doesn't have his teammate to help him with Captain Foxy at the moment, because Crackerzak, after those first lap incidents, still fighting it out with Soggy Bread further back. We see more pits potentially happening. No, never mind. Crackerzak maybe looking towards the inside of turn number 1. Won't go for it.
A little bit wide for the McLaren, though. Drive-through taken for Milan. That is devastating for the Supra driver. And he'll come back out just ahead of Elizabeth Fraser there. But this fight is showing no signs of slowing down. Ruben Das getting passed by Dexit, but the McLaren is still on the attack, and we can't forget about Nathan Vaughn behind. This 3-way fight on the way into the Banks corner. We saw the difference in lines there, and it seems once again the outside is where you want to be, because look at the launch that Dexit gets, but the slipstream for the McLaren.
Moving in towards turn number 10, this McLaren might look for a move towards the inside. We see a little bit of weaving on the straight. Now towards the inside goes Ruben Das. No! Moves on the outside on the final end of it and won't be able to get the snapback into the next turn. Nathan Vaughn unable to take advantage of that wide line from Ruben Das, but Dexit is very happy about that one.
Yeah, that was a very late defense there, I have to say, from from Dexit, but Ruben Das had his head on a swivel there. He was right on it, able to take the alternative line and still keep in touch with the Mercedes. Only 0.3 of a second separating them. And again, the difference in lines. We see the late apex there from Ruben Das, and into the pits, Captain Foxy.
Is that a drive-through as well? Like,
Might
what
be.
is going on right now? He's been running so well, and just like that, Guayando now sitting second place in the in the race. Excuse me.
Yeah, no worries. I've had to hold my breath and keep a few coughs off the air myself. This race has just gone off in the last 20 minutes, and we're coming up on 10 minutes to go. There's the Alpine, I believe, that brought out the safety car coming out of the pits. Bit of a defensive line there from turn ones from Dexit. That's given a great advantage to Ruben Das. I'm not quite sure what happened there, as we hear news that the drive-through has been taken by Captain Foxy, and he falls down to 9th.
Yeah, now
Drive
his
through for
battle
Seth
with
as well.
Crackerzack once again. As we take a look, Crackerzack and Soggy Bread still battling it out. Soggy Bread able to stay ahead of this Mercedes AMG for the time being, but as we approach turn number 7, we look towards the inside. Crackerzack on Soggy Bread. Can he make it stick? Yes, he does. Soggy Bread very, very wide there, but he's got the inside line going into turn number 8 and now into turn number 9. But once again, the outside, turn number 9. Look at how much speed Crackerzack is able to carry through that. But now they're on to the straights. And Soggy Bread has got the slipstream, but I don't think he actually has the overtaking ability. But look at Captain Foxy. He's so fast on these straights. Now going to try to make a move on 2 cars at once. Going around the outside. We're 3 wide. Gets contact from Soggy Bread. Able to just barely stay ahead. And now getting on the backside of Crackerzack. Soggy Bread caught in the traffic right now. And there's a 3-way battle now for 7th place, but it's a different group than we saw earlier, and this traffic not helping them out quite at all. Remember, blue flags don't exist. In comes Captain Foxy. He's trying to make the move on Soggy Bread and on Crackerzack at the same time. They're into turn number 14. Inside line goes Soggy Bread, but the late apex should be advantageous for Crackerzack, and the traffic is holding Soggy Bread up, and now Captain Foxy up ahead now with the inside line going into the final corner, and Captain Foxy able to make up the position.
Whoa,
gets a little bit of a contact. Right into the wall goes Captain Foxy. Absolutely disastrous. And I think that was Soggy Bread making a mistake with the traffic leading into that collision. Captain Foxy, what a heartbreak of a race. Had to do a drive-through penalty, ended up at the back dealing with traffic and Soggy Bread at the same time. Crackerzack able to keep his nose clean, but the stewards are not going to be happy about that one.
Oh, no, they're not. And, you know, yeah, traffic definitely had their part to play there too. I think it was Gwendolyn Chandler there who unfortunately lost it coming down the straight. Meanwhile, this battle for 3rd place on the road has been going off as well. We briefly switched to it. Dexit is having so much trouble getting by Ruben Das here, and it has brought Nathan Vaughan right into the thick of it. What huge changes have happened with just 8 minutes to go in this race?
It all comes down to the line, but this is GT racing at its finest. Just one safety car is enough to make things very difficult. There's a little bit of contact there. Dexit goes for the switchback around, inside line now onto Ruben Das, but Ruben Das, well, switchback line on to turn number 11, but Dexit gets the better exit, now ahead, and should be able to maintain his lead through turn number 12. Now moving into that all-important turn number 14, we've seen multiple lines through it. That late apex has been so potent. And Dexit, he's into the podium paying positions. I don't think he thought he was going to be here at the safety car restart. And we see a little bit of a move happening from Nathan Vaughan onto Ruben Das, but he won't make it stick. And Dexit is now just driving away, now in clean air.
Yeah, wow. Okay, we get a little bit of a moment to catch our breaths here with that 3rd place fight dying down just a little bit. The Crackerzack, is looking to try and make up some more time here. It's been an up and down race for Crackerzak, hasn't it? He was running in the top 3, then unfortunately fell back, and then a crash on the way off the green flag after the safety car. Now he's trying to find his way past Hazza Walker for 6th spot, and I gotta say, there's not much time ahead to Nathan Vaughan, so if Crackerzak can get by Hazza here, he might become a factor in that 3rd place battle, but there's only 6 minutes left to go. He doesn't have much time to assert himself.
No, he doesn't. And Hazza Walker's been so good on the defensive driving. We saw how long he was able to keep Elizabeth Fraser off of him for earlier portions in this race, so I don't think he's going to go down without a fight. As we go into turn number 9, both taking the same line. I think Crackerzak is going to try to make up the position in sector 3. He's got the slipstream going into turn number 10, but I don't think he has the straight line speed to make the move work. Just as I say that, though, he is making up the speed right now.
Yeah, but middle of the road for Hazza Walker. That is a textbook defensive line, very wide for Crackerzak, and does not end up making any time on the exit as, oh, hello, that is Nathan Vaughan right in the thick of the battle for 3rd now, tries round the outside of Dexit here, doesn't get the traction though. The Mercedes off the corners is one of the most supreme cars out there, but still sticking it up the inside is Nathan. Will he be able to get the move done up the inside?
Turn 14, this is such a tricky corner to make a pass on. We've seen it happen, though, and that outside line working out for Dexit, he just launches completely off the exit of the corner, and he's able to keep the position from Nathan Vaughan. Meanwhile, Ruben Das, currently up in 3rd position. He was able to take the position back from Dexit earlier, and now he's looking at a podium potentially as well. 4 minutes, 30 seconds, plus 1 lap remaining in the race. Samuel McGill has this one pretty much in the bag. Guayando in the same position right now in P2, but this battle for 3rd is very tight.
Yeah, and we still have no idea how it's going to work out. Bit of space given between the cars, but, you know, just one mistake can change the face of a battle. We've seen it so many times this race already. Back up to Ruben Das. He has done an incredible job keeping these drivers behind. We saw how much of a defensive drive he put up against Dexit, and now he is being rewarded with a podium place. Let's see if Crackerzak is rewarded with a 6th here as he continues to struggle to get past Hazza Walker. Tiny bit of contact, I think, in the braking zone there. This time, it is Hazza that has the outside line. They almost make side-by-side contact coming onto the straight.
And Hazza has the better straight line speed because he had that outside line in turn number 9. It looks like Crackerzak is going to try to make a move towards the outside of turn 10, though. Same exact position that he did. He's going to look for the switch back around, take the late apex. Maybe. No, he's actually going straight on the outside. Looks for the inside line on the next turn, but falls back in a position as he just doesn't have the speed on that outside to get up on Hazza Walker.
Dexit up the inside of Ruben Das. But, oh man, I think the story of this race is the outside line in just about every corner. It's proven quite difficult to actually get a move done. Oh, there we go. There's the contact.
Inside turn number 9. And that contact, I mean, this is GT racing, right? And it's getting a retribution contact? Excuse me, is this NASCAR? I think he was looking for payback on that turn, honestly. And now towards the inside again, they make contact again. Round turn number 16.
Only 2.5 minutes to go, plus 1 lap, and Dexit is fired up right now. Oh, have a look at that!
On to Dexit. Looks for the inside lineup on the turn number 1. He's able to get ahead of Dexit. No, Dexit now on the outside. Look for the switch back onto the inside, turn number 1. They're so close. Nearly running into the back quite then. Has to back off on the brakes, giving an opportunity for Nathan Vaughan to come back in around onto the next turn. But they stay in position for the time being. But once again, it's going to be turn number 9. That outside line is so potent. Ruben Das 0.7 seconds ahead of Dexit. And Dexit's now fighting to keep this 4th place from Nathan Vaughan.
Oh man, and fighting hard. That is simply incredible. I can't believe how much this race has gone off since that safety car. Not just the traffic dramas, but once they managed to get past the traffic, the sheer amount of fighting that these drivers have had to do. As we see, Gwendolyn Chandler has been given a drive-through from race direction. That's going to be another blow in an already difficult race for Gwendolyn. But we keep our eyes peeled here to see if Nathan Vaughan can find his way past Dixit.
Further back, Captain Foxy making quick work of ENC Dark. Goes on the inside of turn number 10, but the switchback's not going to happen as that Maserati has just been so good this race, and it's really heartbreaking to see Captain Foxy only going to be rewarded with the top 10 at the end of the day. 46 seconds plus 1 lap. We will have time for, I think, 2 more laps in this race as Samuel McGill ends up crossing the start-finish line. And Dexit and Nathan Vaughan further back with Ruben Doss. Dexit now 0.3 seconds. He needs to make this move stick. He's got 2 laps to do it in. 27 seconds plus 1 lap.
Oh boy. All right, hold your breath, everybody. We got 2 laps to go here. And these fights are by no means finished. Not only do we have this battle for 3rd, it actually looks like we have 6th place catching up to them as well. Crackerzak is starting to round up on that battle. We've also got the fight between Captain Foxy and ENC Dark. Let's see if Dark manages to make a move on Foxy. There's also Mylan and Seth and Elizabeth Fraser all involved in a battle here. You can see the damage there for Captain Foxy's car. The rear wing's wonky.
Oh, it is. One side. I mean, it's like a sprint car, right? You're more biased to turn in one direction.
Well, yeah, and I mean, considering the angle of the rear wing, I think actually might help him in the right-handers, and this track is mostly right-handers.
Yeah. Exactly. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. We are about to hit our final lap of the race. Samuel McGill has not crossed the start-finish line quite yet, but as we see this battle for 3rd place, the final podium position between Dexit, Ruben Doss, and Nathan Vaughan. They've got a lap and a half to make any moves they want to make. As Captain Foxy ends up battling out with Soggy Bread now on the inside of turn number 10. He's been able to make that inside line stick as he's got better breakaway speed, but it looks like the snapback will make its way from Soggy Bread. Back towards the inside of the next turn, though, goes Captain Foxy. He really wants to get higher up in this positions after he was in 2nd for the entire race. Will stay ahead. There's contact, though. Soggy Bread running on the back of Captain Foxy, but Captain Foxy will be able to maintain the position for the time being. As we move back to the battle for 3rd place. Dexit now behind Ruben Doss. They've got 1 more lap in them as they round turn number 16. We know the winner is going to be Samuel McGill. We know Guayando is going to be in 2nd place, barring any unforeseen mishaps. But who is going to round out the podium? Dexit,
yeah, that's the big
0.6
question,
seconds
isn't it?
behind.
Oh boy. Yeah, here we go then. Yeah, McGill and Guayando are pretty much guaranteed 1st and 2nd right now. They're miles ahead of everybody else, but this has turned into a 4-way battle now with Ruben Doss, Dexit, Nathan Vaughan, and now Crackerzak in the midst of this fight as well. Crackerzak has made up a huge amount of time here in the last couple of laps. He might be able to have a chance at a top 5 after a difficult race.
A very difficult race for him indeed. But
Oh, yeah, there we go.
Dexit
Big oversteer.
looking for the inside. Ruben Doss further back, though. Crackerzak making the moves on to Nathan Vaughan, but we're paying attention to 3rd place right now. Outside line for Ruben Doss going in towards the inside of turn number 9. They're moving into the straights. Remember, this Mercedes, not as good on the straights, much better through the twisty sections. Car in 1st place, Samuel McGill, is fastly approaching turn number 14, but we take a look at this battle for 3rd. Ruben Doss keeps the line into turn number 10. They're just going for the racing line right now. Dexit a little bit wide on the exit, though. That's going to be incredibly punished. He's now lost a complete second onto Ruben Doss. That means he's going to round out the podium because there's no way to make a second back up in the end of this track. You would have to think, but he's braking very late. Dexit, he really wants to get on top of this podium. They make their way in towards turn 13 and 14. Still, Dexit a full second behind. Now crossing the finish line, Samuel McGill is your charity drive champion, but we keep paying attention to this third place battle. 1.2 seconds now. I think Ruben Doss has it in the bag, makes the appropriate line to turn number 14. Second across the line, Guayondo will be on the second spot on the podium, but now it's Ruben Doss holding off Dexit and everybody else. Cracker Zach now up in a fourth position behind Nathan Vaughn quietly. And just like that, third place gonna be Ruben Doss. Dexit ends the race in the pit lane. Krakazak, Nathan Vaughn, Azawalker, Captain Foxy, ENC Dark. They're all crossing the line now.
Oh,
and just like that, another charity drive is in the books.
Oh, it is indeed, but with one final huge blow for Dexit. Did you see that? 180 seconds added to final time. I wonder what that was for. Oh, man. Well, it looks like Elizabeth Fraser made the move on Seth in the end, and Dexit is going to really fall down the order there. But it looks like that is going to be your top 10.
Wait. Wait, no. I thought penalties were being added, but this is just cooldown laps. I'm like, why is Guayondo ahead of Ruben Doss? We'll see the final target reports later. Obviously, this being single driver racing, incidents that weren't caught by the stewards during the race will have to be brought up after the race, and we'll get our final positions later. That said, you still got time to donate if you have the means to do so. World Food Program is
absolutely
the charity of choice.
It looks like McGill is blowing out his rear tires doing donuts. He doesn't need them anymore. Yeah, indeed. Make sure that you go to the donation link in our Twitch description and go for it. Some news about that 180-second penalty for Dexit. It's going to be reversed by race control, so I think he might be able to come away with 5th from that because he came into the pits. I'm not too sure at this stage.
Well, the race being done here. Anything you want to say, Southpaw?
Oh, I mean, I don't know what I can say that hasn't already been said. That was a really fantastic edition of the charity drive. Just brilliant racing all throughout. We had drivers going hell for leather, trying to make those moves. This race pretty much had everything. It had interesting pit strategies, it had a safety car, it had traffic drama, and it had just straight up good racing. And I want to thank everyone who's in the Twitch chat at the moment. Thanks very much for sticking with us through this. I ended up having a great night. What about you?
A great morning. It's still morning where I am, but I appreciated commentating with you, and very much thanks to our producer Dan Noskill, the stewards and admins, Martrin7, Nighthawk33, SMA, and everybody else who has been involved here on the charity drive. That being said, that's all the time we have for today's broadcast. My name's been Fennec, that's been Southpaw, and we'll see you next time around.